I'm gonna take Kimber. Fine.
Setting it up. Start yet? Okay. All right, here we are. Good evening. We're live. Check it out.
Hello, hello.
We're here at our ranch.
the dog pack.
Yeah, a little fire going on back here in our fire
I have a
pit.
sweater on.
I know it feels great out here. Super nice, super relaxing. So our nightcap tonight. I'm Carlos. It's my gorgeous queen and wife Chantel, and founders of Epic Your Life, creating extraordinary, where we do our best to transform marriages, make them great again. You know what I'm saying? Because it's amazing when you have a great marriage. When you have epic marriage, it's even better. So we've combined our skills. Myself being a lot of my background is in business consulting and development, systems strategies, systems and processes, Six Sigma, lean business practices. And I like systems a lot. I like strategies a lot. And so been doing it for over 27 years now. It's crazy. And so then my queen here, Chantel, if you don't know, has now over, let's see, we've been together for over 14 years and 11 years prior to that. So that'd be 25 years combined of working with people and helping them turn those triggers, and those traumas into triumphs. And so she worked a lot of years before we got together with abused and neglected children for over 11 years. And so pretty crazy when you combine that, what it can do. So we're super grateful to have that experience and super grateful to be here with you. And on Mondays, we talk about what we've been up to last week. Usually we jump on here and do a live here. So thought we'd do it outside. Our beautiful ranch. Fall is in the air, huh?
Yeah, I can't believe you don't have a jacket.
I know. I might have to go get one a little bit, but that campfire is nice. Or we'll switch spots. Maybe we should do that if it gets too cold.
I think that's why I had you on the side.
Probably. Fire's looking pretty. Dogs are looking cool too in the background. Our new puppies. Nova. Chacho and Captain are back there. Kimber's back there. Where? So we enjoy just.
Cheers.
Oh, did you say Bruce?
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. I thought you were doing the German thing.
So our day today was full.
Yeah.
Lots of fun conversations that we had. But you had something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I do. I want to interview you. We had a new experience, and it's crazy because so for us, it's always about refining what we do and making our marriage better. We know we lead by example. That's always been our heart. And so there's been a lot going on. And this year, 2024, has been off the chain for us. We're talking about growth. We're talking about expansion, new clientele, new retreats. Jesse and Adina Kaufman, who are our partners, branched off and formed Single to Married. So we've had so much going on. And then you got to do fulfillment in the mentorship. And we unplug at our retreats while we're hosting retreats, which is 4 a year now. Then we don't do mentorship during those weeks when we travel and we have, things we're doing and traveling to meet and work with our legacy team. We cut back on our mentorship during that time. So we're like, this year, there's probably 5 or 9 to 10 weeks where we skimmed down on the mentorship or didn't do it at all. So then you're like, okay, what the rest of the time we can't, because we have weekly mentorships with a lot of our clients and we're like fulfillment. And so it's crazy because when I stopped and thought about it, like we combine our work, what we do with pretty much everything. Like if we take a vacation trip, if we do anything to go serve and help people, we got people with us from our community and we love it. We love what we do. We love the people that we serve. We just, in the midst of this, realized that we haven't unplugged all year, really technically, where it's like, we even talked about That's what's crazy. Okay, so we talked about now getting like a flip phone, emergency phone, where it's just for emergency calls from our family, and she and I just go somewhere for a week and no contact. Well, that's impossible to do this year. Really, it was because we're just getting this schedule going, and but we realized we've got some incredible and amazing legacy leadership, and they are amazing, and we've been empowering them, training them, working with them. And so this next coming year in 2025, we definitely will be empowering them and duplicating. So we don't have to do all the mentorship. We don't have to do all the retreats. So we can actually have a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks where we unplug and revamp and recuperate, rejuvenate. So that brings me all now back to the story and why I'm going to question my wife tonight and interview her a little bit. Because she was wise enough to say, look, I need to go and I just need to unplug and rejuvenate. And I was like, okay, I've got some things we need to do. I need to keep working. I definitely want to bless you with that. And I respect your wisdom with that, which totally awesome now on this side of it. And so yeah, last Friday, she left to go to the beach. We have a dear friend who has a beach house. She went there to unplug and unwind. So tell me, Chantel, leading up to this, I mean, it's kind of dark. Sorry, it's kind of dark. So sorry about that, but we're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah, so originally this week was scheduled off to take our daughter to the beach
Yep,
for fall break.
I'll break.
Well, the reality is that our daughter is 16 now and she has a vehicle. She needs to pay for that vehicle. So she had to work. And so, she made the decision to stay home and work. And then, of course, Carlos made the decision to stay home. So the question was, do I still go? And then Carlos was like, well, maybe you should make it a girls' trip and those kind of things. And I was like,
And also, I had originally thought, well, I'll just go and I'll work while I'm there with you and give you the time, but that's not gonna work either.
So then he thought, maybe you should go to a girls' trip. So trying to get a couple of friends together. And, obviously I have the friend that has the house. So, but other girls, I was trying to get together too. And it just didn't work out, right? It wasn't, it was short notice, those kind of things. And so I had a lot of turmoil, if you will, of do I go? Do I stay? You know, I have parents here who, we have worked so much and spent so much time working this year that, I definitely battle with like spending time with them. Um, all of the moving pieces that run our business, our home, our ranch, our family, definitely can keep you consumed, right? And definitely feeling like, on like Carlos was saying, on the times that we have traveled or gotten away, still continuing to work, still continuing to serve and bless our clientele. And so, I was in turmoil with what to do and, still kind of trying to make up my mind, not fully going like all in. And then I got a call from our friend who has the house and she's like, "Are you coming?" And I'm like, "I'm coming. I just got to get out of here." Like, and recognizing that I had gotten to a sort of like a boiling point, right? Like, if you're familiar with a pressure cooker, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like the pressure was just like really like, you know, filling my very being and I was about to blow my top, right? I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but that's where I was at. And recognizing that like just on every level, right? Every communication, questions, all of these things, like I answer a lot of questions. I answer a lot of questions for my clients, my family, my husband, my kids, like all of these different things. And like, I was at a boiling point and so I took off. But what happened was I still battled this turmoil, this mindset, this head trip, if you will. And and we kind of were navigating through what that looked like. Like, what does it look like for me to take my dog and go and disconnect and like, to actually take a break. And so it's just gonna get darker and darker.
Yep. Going on and check this light out.
But anyways, so what does that look like, right? What does it feel like? What am I supposed to do? How can I actually like disconnect? What does that look like? And so definitely was battling a lot of that. Um, whoa, he's got light. I don't know. So, I would say for 3 or 4 days, even that was rough. And so conversations Carlos and I were having, and, he's asking questions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Are you getting better?
Yeah. And he's like, you feel rejuvenated yet? I'm like, no, because you keep asking me questions. And like there's this expectation that like, overnight, like I'm gonna just like feel replenished. And I'm like, I don't feel replenished. And then he's like, I miss you. And I'm like, I don't miss you right now. So then he's got to sit with that. Like, what does that mean?
What's
Right?
wrong with me?
So,
Being rejected.
going through this process, and I'm like trying to figure it out. We have worked really hard to communicate and exercise the muscles of like fully speaking our truth and fully being able to, you know, press in and work on whatever it is, right? So
Yeah.
there's no question, there's no nothing. And it's brought so much intimacy and so much closeness for us, over the last couple of years. So that's what I was doing. I was just very clear, like, this is where I'm at right now. And so thank God for Marco Polo because it gave me a space to just like cry and process and like release and right, like ugly cry and I'm communicating like, okay, like this is where I'm at right now. And, he's like, okay, so now what do I do with that?
Yeah.
And he was having a rough week on his own, right?
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely it was for me back here. It was, we always talk about there's either gratitude or there's entitlement. Like these are two things that if you start recognizing in your life of what your space you're in. And I really started to get almost without a doubt, a feeling of entitlement. Like, wait a second, like I'm your husband, like, this is what we do. We build relationships. Like, what is going on here? Like, what did I do wrong? All of a sudden I become the victim of like, I did something wrong. Or why don't you like me? Why don't you want to be around me? You feel
Yeah,
me?
are
Like,
you escaping me?
yeah, like what did I do that you don't want to be
Because I
or
said
that you
that.
don't miss me?
Because I said I don't miss you. He was like, oh, so you trying to get away from me.
That's right. So I'm the problem now. I mean, this is all part of the processing of the mind and feeling even like, okay, am I abandoned here? Because I mean, I definitely had abandonment issues from my past, or am I a
It was
victim
fully
here?
triggered.
Right. So yeah, that's true. There's trigger and then things coming up. And so again, it's really about what you do with those situations, to be honest. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep working, keep plugging away and trust the process. And one of the things that really hit me was that, man, we just disrupted our normal flow. Because even when I do travel or she travels, like typically, we check in. We got a nice flow. We check in the morning, probably do a night call at night to connect and communicate. And it's kind of our routine, right? I think they went in with Michelle.
Both of them.
Yeah. And so it's kind of our thing, right? Oh, here she comes. And so what was interesting is that wasn't even taking place. Okay, there's some Marco Polo, but there's not this like good morning, good night. There's not this. At first, we were doing our Epic 30. Some of you may be wondering, what is that? It's part of our process of communication, of getting some word from God and then sharing that with each other, and then also sharing our gratitudes and worthies. Well, that's common when we travel. We still do this. And all of a sudden she's like, is it okay if I don't do that? And I was like, you can do whatever you want. How about that? Let's just do this. Like, and I did believe that and I meant that and I still mean it. Like it hasn't changed. It definitely didn't change. So recognizing how empowering that can be to just be released and do whatever you want and truly unwind. That's why I prefaced it with the fact that I recognize we hadn't done that at all this year, where we just unplug, unwind, sleep in, do whatever we want, and not be bound again to even the routines. She was like, so yeah, even that. So how did you process through that? Like as you're, it's like a microphone. As you are, it's not working. All right.
Well, yeah. So it was
How
like,
did you process through that? Even being able to let go of that, cause not having to do even our normal routines and stuff, right?
yeah. So, those were the questions, right? Did you get a good letter from Papa? And, you know, um, I said something and you said something about being on your phone. And I was like, man, so you're asking if I can get in a letter from Papa, and we use an app on the phone for that. And then I'm like, so it's just like, the mind is, running through all these different scenarios. It's like going back to like the right or wrong syndrome,
Yeah.
right? The
Sure.
right, what's wrong, how do I do this? Because it's so foreign, right? It's something that, I don't, necessarily take alone time for me. And, granted, I did have a friend there, but this was about me. It was about me disconnecting. And I knew that I knew that it was like,
And you even felt real strong about not being bound to a schedule during that time.
yeah, took a nap and I was like, I just need to listen to my body. I just like, I need the space and time and freedom to do whatever I want, to go for a walk on the beach, to go for a walk on the pavement, to take a nap, to, you know, eat whatever time I want. Because we're very disciplined people. So when you operate in a comfort zone of discipline
There you
and
go.
healthy habits, you know what I mean? Like that becomes your comfort zone. It's about
Better.
you.
I know I'm gonna get there's
Let's move that out of your face. There you go. So, when you're disciplined people, right, the discipline becomes your comfort zone. And so what does it look like to throw everything to the wind and be like, oh, well, I don't know when I'm gonna come home. I don't know when I want to go to bed. I don't know when I want to wake up. I don't know when I want to eat dinner. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
serious.
is that okay to take a space and time to do that? And so that's what I was experiencing, and that's what I needed. And it was fascinating because again,
Oh,
the first portion of the week was just turmoil until I disconnected. And
yeah.
that's when I fully disconnected and we no longer did phone calls, because it's like the questions. It's like I need a break from questions. Even yours.
Processing.
Yes, even yours.
Processing. Yep.
Right?
Yep. Processing.
I'm over
Processing.
processed. I'm over.
Because that's what we do for our work. That's what we do with the people we serve. And here's another thing it hit me while she was gone. Like, because you have to face all this, like what's really going on. And I'm a huge like thinker, if you didn't know that. Like my mind's going a million miles an hour. And part of it is like, okay, let's look at this year. Why is this happening anyways? Why are we here?
So it's time and space for self-reflection,
Right?
right? So
For her
that's
and
what
for
you
me. Even though I was still working. But it was like, and what I realized is that, even for our anniversary, it should be a sacred time. It's our anniversary. We're celebrating us. Even for our anniversary, we worked.
Mhm.
And I remember saying that, oh, we should unplug. And then it's like, oh, well, what about this? And oh, we got to do this appointment. And oh, we had a retreat 2 weeks ago and we unplugged completely for that week. So we didn't do mentorship. And we need to connect with these clients and da da da. So do you see how it just, and then we didn't. We literally worked through our anniversary. Went out of town and we're like, hey, we can work remotely. Let's work. And we did. We
So
sure.
just because you can work
That's
remotely
right.
doesn't mean you always should.
That's right. I agree with that. It's good, good wisdom. So now you're there. You're finally able to unplug, unwind, and you even are able to unplug from your husband. Because he's pretty intense and he can ask a lot of questions and try to figure things out instead of just being and letting you be present, letting you
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah.
then what? What was was there really a thought process, or you were just literally just like, man, this is what it feels like to be free, kind of, or what? I mean, it's not that we're in bondage, but it is true. Like when you're never
No,
disrupting, that's what I called it.
he
She
called it
disrupting.
disrupting.
She disrupted things, but
I
that is
disrupted
good.
him.
Yeah, which is good. I'm like,
No, I
start
disrupted him too, but it
the
was
norm.
um for me it was more about exercising a muscle that I knew I needed to work that hadn't been worked, right? So I talk a lot about that. We work out heavily and I talk a lot about, working a muscle. Like we don't get stronger in something unless we work it. Like unless we take action and do it. Well, the same is true for unplugging, right? So
Good point.
that's kind of the muscle that I was working and even the resistance, right, of my husband resisting the process because, he didn't understand or it wasn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so feeling the resistance, working the muscle and saying, listen, I mentor women all day long and I know what I would say to any single one of them, right? So if I'm looking at myself and I was looking at myself in the mirror, ugly crying, going, you got to lead by example. Like if you're not taking the time, why should they? Right? Like, why would they work a muscle that you're not willing to work? And I'm always talking about, like, I won't tell you to do something that I'm not willing to do. And so I've got to do this. And so I made the decision, even pushing through the resistance and saying, I got to do this. And so my topic of conversation today was release. Like, what can actually happen when we release, when we actually get the release, like releasing the work, releasing the home, releasing the responsibilities, releasing the schedule, releasing the pressure, releasing the obligation, the fulfillment, all of those things. And then originally, I was going to come home for my daughter's state volleyball game. And I decided to call her and she released me. So she released me from the obligation of going to that game. So coming home. She said, Mom, you don't need to drive home for this. You
That's super
need this
powerful.
break.
Yeah.
And so what happens in the releasing? Like not only me making a decision to release all of it, but then recognizing that I didn't feel released until I made the decision to call Hazel and she released me. Right. So then it was like this full released, and then it was like I'm on vacation.
Yeah. So you were there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, almost like 4 days. And the fifth day finally.
Yeah. And
And it's interesting how sometimes we have to have permission almost, right?
well, and that's
In a
what I was so
sense.
frustrated about. I was
Yeah.
so frustrated in those 4 days. Like, why do I need your permission? Why do I need anybody's approval or whatever? Right. And just like frustrated with myself in like all of that in that process. And so getting to that point where I was able to fully release and embrace the rest, embrace fully, like just felt amazing and I needed it. And, you know, I didn't realize at the time, um, but on this side of it, also realizing because of the consumption of our time, our energy, our communication, all of these things, I also needed the space to miss my husband, right? To miss my home, my family, my clients, my obligations, because we love what we do. But when we feel consumed by them, it takes the love out of it, and that's when the pressure cooker
Yeah.
is going, right? So when the pressure cooker is going and you feel like you're about to blow, we have to disrupt it. We have to
That's true.
regroup. We have to take a break so that we can get to a place where, again, I miss him, right?
Well, and I'm going to speak to this because I was thinking about this too about the power of creation. And if any of you have thought of Genesis and creation, like how God separated man and woman, right? It literally says that he took her flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones, but he separated them. And here's what I believe was the most powerful thing about God separating us, male and female, husband and wife, is so that we would choose to come back together and become one flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what was super powerful because I mean, it is interesting how the disrupted the norm, but really it also gave us the opportunity to choose. Who will you choose, right? And that's the power of even if you think about salvation and even the power to choose God, choose Jesus as your savior. Like there's so much power in choice. And so, what do we do in these situations? Well, sometimes it's just normal. It's like part of our life, right? But when we disrupt the flow, now we have to choose to come back. We have to choose, and the power of that. What did you feel about that for you? Because I know you said that you're like, now I miss you.
Well,
And all of
again,
a sudden she wanted to come home.
when
Like, what was
you
that moment? Tell
when
me about
you
that.
are a wife, a mom, a mentor, a daughter, a sister, all in your environment,
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that become priority above yourself. So when you talk about choose, like that in that moment, in that midweek where I chose me,
that's good.
right?
Super
Like I
good.
chose me above anyone else. And it actually makes me emotional because I don't
Mm,
know that
it's
I've
good.
ever done that.
It's good, babe.
Like literally, you know, prior to us getting together, I was a single mom. And,
Mm.
so
Yeah, I have to mention something. This is really profound. This is coming out right now. We get to process with you guys live because I remember even when you got back, we were talking about this, and I knew it was deeper than that because you were like, "Well, I unplugged," and it's no, I knew it had to be about choice, and here's why. Because we talked about this when she got hurt, she unplugged from the community and mentorship. Obviously, she was broke her clavicle,
collarbone.
collarbone, and her rib from horse injury, and she couldn't. She was laid up. She was injured. She couldn't do the mentorship. Also, when she did in vitro, right? Some of you have seen our videos on that. So all of that, if you think about all those things are like
No, he's
part
like,
of,
oh, you've unplugged.
yeah. And it's true. She had like, but she had never really chosen for herself. That is clarity right now. And even seeing the emotions is truth. But here's the interesting thing, like some of you out there are like, well, that sounds pretty selfish. I did feel that way at the time. I'm gonna be real about that. I was like, what's wrong with you? Not choosing your husband.
Am I not the priority?
And so, but here's the crazy thing. Um, the word, when it talks about it in the Bible, it talks about loving your neighbor as yourself. If you don't even love yourself, it's true. You can't even love your neighbor. Who's your first neighbor? Your spouse. It's your one flesh. It's a whole nother talk about that. But point being is like, if you, and we had been at this, there had been some interesting things about like, there's some like, it's like, we just, the sync thing isn't, we're not in sync. What we need to do here to really level up, because we're always challenging ourselves to level up in intimacy, connection, synchronicity, in the flow together, husband and wife, like epic. Like that's our standard. And we want to continue to improve it, not just like not settle at all. And so, with that said, what does that look like then? What does that mean to say that? Well, it was interesting because it did feel like there was certain part of her like she didn't love herself. I could feel that. And there was a certain level then where she could even love me then. And I remember even like feeling like, okay, there's the affection is there, but it's like, can we progress this? And it's interesting because it is really truly connected to how you love yourself. And so Wednesday breakthrough, then come the weekend, you chose for yourself on Wednesday. That's where we left off. Sorry. You chose yourself and you finally made a decision that you could tell and feel you were choosing for you to love yourself. What was that like?
Amazing.
I can tell.
No, it really was. It was amazing. And,
I agree.
it was amazing to just like, I felt everything inside of me shift, right? From the pressure cooker to peace, right?
Mhm.
And so there was this transition that slowly started happening. And so Wednesday, Thursday, and I did a 4 mile walk with my dog and just fresh air, just enjoying. I mean, the weather could not have been more perfect. There was one super cold day, which gave a contrast, allowed me to binge watch movies or, you know what I mean, just rest. And so I did what I wanted to do. I explored some historical places with my friend, but no pressure. Like it got cold, so we went back to the house and watched a movie, and we watched some really good,
No schedule.
spiritual movies, had some good cries, no schedule, no bedtime, no, whatever. It was just peace and, you know,
No planning.
no planning, no nothing.
What the heck's wrong with you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so, it was funny because at one point I was watching some reels. I don't often sit and like scroll, watch reels, but I was taking the time to do that and the freedom to do that. And I found a funny one, husband related, and that's when I started to miss Carlos. I was like, I was like, ah, okay. I've had this time, I've had this space, I've dunked in the ocean, had sort of a mikvah, if you don't know what that is. It's like a personal type of just cleansing, renewing, right? Water baptism, if you will. But um, I've had a couple of those. Have had some great sunshine, vitamin D, fresh air, feet in the sand, like walks, clarity, all of these things, all of this stuff I'm experiencing and getting to a place then um of just peace. And so then I'm watching these reels and I'm laughing at them, like, oh, that reminds me of Carlos. So I send it to him. And then I sent him a message. I was like, okay, I miss you now.
That's right. I'll see you Saturday for our date night. Something like that, right?
I was like, yeah, that sounds good. It was like, it just, there you go. It was time. I was ready.
Yeah.
Like my cup had been filled.
Yeah.
Like, but it wasn't filled until I released all of the shit, until I fully disconnected.
Yeah.
And
So good.
so, that was an interesting process for us to go through.
Yeah, it was. And again, loving yourself, choosing for you, completely unplugging. Um, it reminded me. So we're in a season right now. Some of you may know about this. Um, I'm going to be speaking about it with our legacy team leadership on Thursday. We have a meeting we have with them, and it's about Sukkot. So it's fascinating, the timing of all this and the powerful priority that God puts on rest. And yes, we do. One thing I will absolutely say is we very much are serious about rest, and we hustle. Like I'm up usually every morning at 4:30, and then she's joining me by 6:30. And we're having our routines, Epic 30, right? And then the point is that, um, but we're very serious about rest, ceasing from what you normally do. Now we do it from sundown Friday night to sundown Saturday night, and then we go on our date Saturday night. Give the best after your rest to your spouse. This is our routine, right? And we really enjoy Shabbat. We do the day of rest, and we'll nap. We do random things like this past Shabbat. I worked on my tractor on my backhoe for like 8, 10 hours straight because I don't ever do that, and that was so relaxing for me just to you're like, well, that's work. No, that's not work for me. Sorry, it's fun. It's my toy tractor back on working on our property. It was awesome. I remember in the middle of the day, this past Saturday of that, I just got off the tractor, turned it off, laid on the ground and took a nap. And the dogs laid next to me and hung out. So I mean, that's a day of rest. But what's fascinating about this whole process is like Sukkot is a week long. So it started last Wednesday and it ends this Wednesday. And it's literally set up for a week of rest and reflection. And you set up a sukkah. So part of that they've done now in modern times, they say you could even do a tent, but you leave your comforts of home and you go camping. I think next year we're going to do this, like probably here on our property. We can camp out here. We'd have to put a tent up just because of the mosquitoes, but but the point is the Sukkot is like an extended time of rest, like having a week long of Shabbat and ceasing from what you normally do. The power of that. That's what I was recognizing with Chantel doing that and the wisdom in it. It is amazing to unwind and unplug and not have any obligations, not have any, but also to recognize what we have. See, and that's part of what Sukkot is about. When you leave your home, your normal home, and you're camping out, you're going almost back like wilderness essentially and roughing it a little bit. And you don't,
desert
and you don't have the normal like blessings and
luxuries.
benefits. But here's the power of that. We take for granted the things we do all the time, normally do. And so the power of having even a week of Sukkot, we used to do this. We'd go to Florida and spend a week there and celebrate with David and Nora Pavlik, Nori. I just called her Nora. I'm sorry, Nora. Nori. Nori Pavlik, David and the Pavliks. How about that? And with their congregation there and spend a week for Sukkot. It was awesome. It was. We would camp out in a tent, literally in their back of their congregation. And it was interesting to unplug in that way and not have the normal um
Luxuries.
amenities and luxuries. Yes. And so it does make you grateful for what you have. And I think that works the same here in our content. Even I was just mentioning this with the guys. This goes back to what I was talking to the guys about, all about this whole situation is that, in our content, we created it that way. It's 8 weeks. And in the ninth week, you don't do the content and you don't do the process of Epic 30. You take a week off. And I was saying how many people that do that then don't come back to it because it's designed where you start at week 1 to create lifestyle in this process of connection, right? And choosing even to connect through Epic 30. So the content and the Epic 30 process are designed to create a lifestyle, but to disrupt that, what I recognize when I was talking about this today is the power of choice. Again, going back to that. When you choose, you take ownership of it. Because a lot of people do stuff because I say so, and I'm good at motivating and inspiring and forcing sometimes, my wife included, let's do this. Yeah. Ooh. And my kids. But the reality is when we choose, that changes everything. Wouldn't you agree? Like you said, you chose for yourself and then you were ready to choose to come home.
Yeah.
So what was that like then? Coming home. Coming home to a spoiled, entitled brat husband who's upset. Let's just go there.
Nova.
Come here, pups. Come.
Yeah, coming home was interesting because I was a little bit delayed. And so I didn't make it home for date night. And I had called him a couple of times, not getting through. Marco Polo, didn't get anything. And then all of a sudden I got a Marco Polo at like 6:30 that was like, well, I'm going on a date and gonna be alone. Sort of.
It's
You'll
good to
find
be alone.
it's good to be alone. Go find gonna find some live music. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So I get it. I was delayed and I didn't really think too much of it until then my mind started thinking too much of it. Right. Then, my triggers start happening. Then I'm like, okay, so I get home at like 9:30. He's not here. I knew he went to go eat, but like, how long is he gonna stay out? Does he want to see me? Like, so then like all of a sudden I'm like, all right, it's good. It's good for him to get out. It's good for him to be alone. And then I'm like, but okay. So I'm laying there. Where is he? Those kind of things. And then he does get home and it's awkward, like super awkward. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So,
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real. I was like pretty entitled at that point, feeling like you didn't choose me. And then I became victim. I was definitely here. I teach this stuff and talk about it, but I was triggered, and I felt like, what was it? Oh, I did feel some abandonment rearing up, and then it's like, but also you know, it was interesting because there was definitely like me feeling like, well, this is not right. But it was also good for me to be alone to recognize, what's important to me. It was good to miss her like a lot and not. I also had to take a look at, okay, because I've been a part of codependency. I have that badge from before. And so it's good to be like, well, no, we travel a lot. We have our own things we do, and this isn't a codependency thing. So it's really like I realized it was a disruption thing. Really, it was powerful. It disrupted the flow, but with purpose. For her to choose for herself revealed to me how I hadn't been choosing for us, and in unplugging and making that decision to lead by example in that way as a husband and of our leader of our community. Because it's interesting, we've worked with pastors too, and we're like, the best thing you can do is to lead by example, have date night, choose each other, and do these things and rest so that your congregation will do the same, right? And here we have a community that we lead, and it's interesting how then the same thing here now we're facing. So, bottom line was I was upset and I was like throwing a fit essentially. And like I didn't really want to talk to her. I was like, and make it home for our date night. And so it was awkward. And then of course I'm triggered, she's triggered, and then we're like at a stalemate. And so yeah, I was not happy. And I was like, look, I feel like you didn't choose. Here we are, you know. And I'm like, at that time, I was just totally like in a space of being a victim, and really it was a tough week. A lot of things with clients, hard stuff, deep stuff. I mean, when I'm going through deep stuff, when she's going through deep stuff, inevitably we go through it with our clients, and so it was amazing. And then just situations of things I had overcome throughout the week, mentally, physically, emotionally. And usually I bounce it off of her. Again, the coolest thing about what we have is I got pick 30. There was one thing that I always turn to, and that is my connection to the source, to God, Papa God, as I call him, Abba, Father, whatever you want to call him, but I call him Papa. And yeah, it was phenomenal. Every step of the way, he met me. It was amazing to meet the clients and be like, talking with the clients and be like, this was God showing me. This is powerful revelation. Because again, that was my only source. She's an amazing woman. She's got some incredible skills, especially when it comes to trauma and triggers. So I can bounce a lot of things off her. but now I couldn't. Even sometimes I tried calling her or whatever, and it just didn't happen at the right time, and she wouldn't answer, and that's good. It was perfect. But I had Papa. That's the thing that's what we always talk to our clients about. I had to live it. I had to practice it too during this time. And so, but in that moment, I'm just like frustrated from everything that was going on and all the ways that I'm like, and I felt like, oh, you didn't even care whether or not I had a rough week or not. I felt abandoned. There's no doubt there was that. Okay. And it was so funny because we were at a stalemate. Like she was upset, she was triggered, I was triggered. And then I was like, in that moment, because I'm learning something. She is helping me to learn validation, the power of validation. And man, I was mad. She was even like, I'm sorry, I can see what you're saying, but I wasn't feeling validated. And she always says that to me. You're not hearing me. I'm like, I'm repeating back what you just said, but it wasn't hearing her. In that moment, I said, babe, you're teaching me how to validate. And I'm realizing we're laying there upside of each other. And I'm like, what is it that blocks you from validating me? Like you teach our clients, you're teaching me. What's happening here? So I do want to pause here and get her feedback about that because this is a good point for wives or husbands that deal with these situations and are stuck in an argument. Because I tell you, when you're stuck in conflict and argument with your husband, we know it's tied to identity, but also here's a big deal. If you validate someone, it really will just change everything. She's taught me how to do this, and it's helped in our relationship and communication now that she's being heard more because I'm learning how to validate.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me about that, because I think probably women are really more naturally good at this.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was it that was blocking you? What did you say?
So what I realized when he said that, I was like, well, how do you expect me to validate you when I'm hurting? Like I'm stuck in my own hurt. I'm experiencing my
Good
own
point.
trigger.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's like, we're just figuring out like how to go from like consciously, we can understand all day long what diffuses things and how we can best communicate, but when we are feeling our own emotions and it's deep, and I've now been triggered into some of my deep stuff, um there's the block, right? So when there's a stalemate, so when there's that block, um what happened?
Well, you just have to choose. You have to choose to just validate in that moment. And it was super crazy because she said it in one sentence. And she had said sorry. I'm sorry because I could see how you feel that way and stuff. And I still wasn't it still wasn't a validation of what I was experiencing in that moment, the emotions I was
Right.
feeling.
But so then what did I
She said to me, she literally just said such a simple thing. And because think about this, and I want to express this because it's real. I was like this. I was so frustrated. She was saying sorry. She was upset. I'm like, I don't care. I'm upset. And this is how I feel. And this is my feelings, my feelings. Think about how many people go through that. Like, my feelings, my feelings. And this is what I'm feeling. Not that it was right. I mean, looking back, I was spoiled brat. I was having,
Yeah, but your
I was
feelings
having,
were valid.
but yeah, true. But what I'm saying is looking back now, I can understand and take ownership of what it was really about entitlement because this was super good that she did this and we learned a lot through it and it was necessary and beneficial. So now I can see the benefits of, but in that moment I was so emotional and having all these feelings that I was like this, right? Tense. And then in that moment, what I realized through validation is it causes you to be able to release it and have peace. And all she said was, I can see how all that was going on, that you had a confusion, it would cause confusion in you this week. And she nailed it. Like in that, when she said that, I was like, that's it. That's it. And I had no more strength to fight. I had no more. I mean, because it really was that. I was super freaking confused. Like, what is going on? What did I do wrong? And why do you not miss me? Why do you not like me? That's what I thought, And Also all the challenges I was facing with work and
And
yeah,
all the
God,
people asking him, when is she coming
yeah,
home? And he's like,
when is your
I
wife
don't
coming
know.
home? And I'm like, I don't know, I've never done this before. This is new. Like, I don't know. She's not telling me when she's coming home. And I don't know. And they're like, well, is something wrong? That was another question that kept
Mm,
coming up. I'm like, well,
shouldn't be
nothing's wrong.
worried.
Nothing's wrong, but is it okay that she's unplugging? And right, I didn't say those things, but I mean, I was thinking it for sure. But it does. It's like I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. And when she said that, it was super powerful, man. I was undone. I was just like, that's it. Thank you for hearing me. You totally validated what I was feeling, and then we connected like never before. I mean, seriously, that's what I realized through this process of disruption and then choosing each other in that moment. It's
Well,
like
so,
next
because
level.
he released then and was able to like let go of all of his frustration,
And
right?
communicate sanely.
Yeah, but
It happens.
it,
I'm
it
just saying the
wasn't it
reality.
wasn't even a communication beyond that.
Right. You're right.
Rolled
True.
over and then we just started making out.
Hmm.
And it was like,
True to that. We're like teenage little newlyweds,
but
which are always
but
that way, but it was even more passion.
but here's the powerful thing about that, right? The he could hear the truth and he could feel the truth.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden he could feel my truth, right? The truth is I did miss him. The truth is I do love him. I like him. I want to be close to him. In fact, like in that moment, it was like we couldn't get close enough,
Yeah.
right? And for hours we just spent connecting and you know recognizing that, part of this whole process was that I needed to feel that again, right? Because we had been so consumed with everything else that I wasn't feeling that. And so I think that's important for people to recognize that just because you're not feeling it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we have to disrupt something
Yeah.
so that we can like find ourselves again, find
So
our
good.
our find that. Right? We have to
Yeah.
access it. We have to release some shit to make space for that place that is still there.
That's right.
Right? So,
Well, and it's real, like even being able to, it was crazy. I've been describing it to some of the guys I was mentoring today, that it was like this. We're one flesh. We're super close, super intimate, and super in love with each other. And then like we separated, disconnected, was like the energy, like, and then when we finally came back together, it was like, boom, like an atomic bomb in a good way. Not a, it was super good.
that's his version.
Eyes roll back in your head, good, like double over. So it was really awesome just to have that connection and choose each other and then recognize, oh my gosh, yeah, this was super good and beneficial again because of the ability to love yourself allows you to love others more.
Yeah, so I would challenge you then even to see like when you say choose each other, when we choose ourselves personally, we have the ability then like it is simultaneously us choosing each other, right? Like it's not necessarily like, I mean, when we're operating from a place of one flesh, that definitely is one and the same in that.
Yeah. No, okay. Keep talking.
I'm done.
No, it is. It is cool. Yeah, I've often talked about this in the sense of, God comes first and then I come second. But when I'm coming second
But
and
what
I'm
does
one
that look
flesh.
like?
Yeah,
Like, what
that's a
does
good
that
point.
look like for you? Oh, I had to discover that.
And so in this season of Sukkot, right? Till this Wednesday, it is a time of rest. And I admit we didn't prepare very well for it this year. Kind of snuck up on us. I want to prepare for it next year better. And I do. I'm excited for duplication and we honor and follow through with what we say we're going to do, and that's where the mentorship comes in. But now I'm excited to empower. our leadership in our community. It's super awesome. I'm excited for all of you to get to hear from them and learn from them more. So
Mhm.
we're just getting started here at Epic Your Life. And we love what we do. We love serving people. We love connecting. We love loving each other. That's part of what we get to do. And it has been fun. Like we've been like, yeah, just flirting a lot more. And again, just, yeah, cuddling, kissing a lot more, groping a lot more. Yeah, it's really cool. It's good. And even at night, now it's cold. So snuggling up, sometimes it's too warm to snuggle so much. 'Cause I'm a hot-blooded guy. But this has been amazing. And I'm super grateful for the experience. And again, once again, grateful for your wisdom to do this and follow through. Hey, uh, it's been a blast. So thanks for listening tonight. It's a little longer version, but
Yeah.
super fun. We'll enjoy the campfire a little bit more and hope you guys have a good night.
A campfire, bonfire.
Oh, bonfire. Bonfire. All right. Till we meet again. Blessings. See you
Yes.
guys.